Hello and welcome to Digital Development Studio. On this podcast session, I have a guest with me. He is Mr. Patrick Watts. He is the CEO of Christian Aid. Welcome to Development Digital Studio.
Thank you very much. Very good to be here.
All right, let's just get into the discussion. What is the primary focus of Christian Aid as an organization?
Christian Aid's primary focus is tackling the injustice of poverty and understanding that poverty is the result of political choices, things that people choose to do and choose not to do, and that those structural causes have to be addressed if we are to make a lasting impact on poverty. We were created in 1945. We're the agency of the British and Irish churches, initially responding to the refugee crisis in Europe at the end of the Second World War. And we've been working in partnership for the last 80 years around the world, working on the issues that trap people in poverty, but also working on alleviating the immediate symptoms of poverty through humanitarian response. So we are both a humanitarian agency and an agency that does long-term development programs and campaigning.
All right, so I see that one of the core things that you do is to eradicate poverty. So what has been that experience working across the countries that you have worked, the organization has worked in?
Well, of course, there's been a huge amount of change in the last 80 years. I mean, Christian Aid has played a small role within a very big ecosystem in helping to make progress. But I think there are areas, the status of women, people's economic situation, where there have been visible improvements in many of the countries in which we work. But I think what's particularly concerning for anybody who cares about the issues on which we're working is that over the last 15 years, those gains, those social and economic gains, have slowed and in some cases reversed. We've seen the benefits of economic prosperity accruing to a shrinking number of people. We've also seen the climate crisis threatening to reverse many of the improvements that have been secured for people. So I think we're at quite a profound moment, a kind of inflection point, where we've got to recognize that the approaches that have been taken in the past to tackle poverty aren't going to be the approaches that actually deliver further change into the future.
All right, thank you. What are some of the specific objectives and outcomes that Christian Aid aims to achieve through its initiatives in Nigeria?
So we have 4 themes that we work on around the world. So we work on climate adaptation and resilience, so helping vulnerable communities adapt to withstand the shocks created by the climate crisis. And of course, that's an urgent issue here in Nigeria, particularly in the more arid parts of the north of the country, but also in flood and storm-prone parts of the country elsewhere. We work on gender justice, so campaigning for equality between women and girls and men and boys. And I was talking earlier today with partners about the side-by-side movement, which is one example of the work we're doing with Islamic and Christian organizations to help address gender-based violence at the community level, ensure that laws are upheld, but also that attitudes and norms within communities shift. A third area is peace building. We work on peace building around the world in many conflict-affected settings, from Myanmar to Colombia to here in Nigeria. And that is both community-level peace building, so trying to prevent conflict, but also repair the social fabric where it's been torn apart by violence. But also some influencing at a national and international level around track 2 peace building. And then our final area of work is governance and rights. So supporting civil society to take its full part in development, in promotion and upholding of rights, and building a culture of active citizenship where strong civil society exists alongside effective and accountable states and functioning markets that actually deliver decent livelihoods for people.
Okay, there's no doubt that gender justice, it's a global movement, people trying to advocate for the rights of women and girls. especially as it relates to sexual abuse? What are the specific things that you say, that specific strategies that your organization has carried out or done in trying to, promote gender justice in your work?
So I think, there's no single strategy to promote gender justice. This has many layers to it. Clearly, there's a legislative dimension in many of the places around the world where we work. In many cases, women and girls do not have equality under the law. In many cases, laws that are on the books don't go implemented. So there's a significant task in ensuring that women and girls and men and boys have full legal protection, and that gender-based violence and other forms of gender-based discrimination are tackled legally. But the law often reflects social attitudes, behaviours, norms that exist, some of which have been reinforced by what I would regard as misinterpretations of religious teaching. So we work with religious leaders, with religious communities, and with communities more broadly to address those norms and behaviours, understanding where communities are currently, seeking to engage them in dialogue about understanding perhaps some of the negative impacts of some of those norms and behaviours. And then I think there's a really important economic dimension to gender inequality. In many cases where women have the same economic chances as men, they're respected more in the community, they have more autonomy, they have more voice. So tackling that economic dimension through women's economic empowerment, supporting livelihoods, supporting access to credit markets and to other forms of market, I think has proven to be a really important part of how you go about transforming the role and the voice of women and girls within the community.
All right, 80 years of existence of your organization. What are the future directions, especially for your work in Nigeria?
So I think we're at an interesting moment. Christian Aid has historically been primarily supported by the British and the Irish public. So most of our money comes from voluntary donations, mostly from Christians in Britain and Ireland. I think we've seen our reliance on that voluntary funding increase in recent years as official aid has been cut. So official aid is playing a much smaller part in our overall income. And I suspect that we're moving now into a world where the kind of very close connection between international NGOs and official Western donors is coming to an end. There have been major aid cuts announced in Nigeria in recent months from the US government in particular, but we can see UK government aid cuts coming down the line. And I think both international and national civil society is going to have to draw much more on its own resources in the future. It's going to have to remind itself about its founding vision. We weren't created as an organization to pursue official aid funding. So I think recapturing the original energy and vision that animated our organization is going to be really important moving forward. I think what will remain the same is our commitment to working in partnership with Nigerian civil society. That's something we want to strengthen. We expect to put more resources into that into the future. And we want to do that for two reasons. I mean, we want to build a strong civil society because we think that in itself is a positive goal. But we also want to recognize that actually most of the answers to the issues on which we are working sit not inside Christian Aid, but amongst people affected by poverty and within the societies where we're supporting our work. So that's very much going to kind of shape our work into the future. What happens in this country is going to be critical to whether or not the Sustainable Development Goals are achieved for Africa as a whole, given Nigeria's size and its importance in this region. So this is absolutely a country where Christian Aid wants to continue to work, continue to play its part as part of a rich ecosystem of different development actors.
All right, Mr. Patrick Worth, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for being our guest on Development Digital Studio. Well, that was Mr. Patrick Watts, the CEO of Christian Aid. And our discussion has been around what Christian Aid does, their thematic areas, especially as it relates to Nigeria. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.